And congratulations to FFR Pro for taking that winner's side match. Next, we're going to be seeing I Like Being Smart versus Tayman in the losers semifinals.
Yes,
So,
I think we should be stepping back down, dialing back the speed a little bit, because what is it? What are they playing on? 9, I think. Yeah, 9. So we have Tayman. Good job, Tayman, for repping the best girl.
Lorelai, the librarian.
She is definitely the best girl, or Prima.
Your favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we see Misty, the classic, on the other side. Probably the most well-known female character in the entire Puzzle League franchise. Pokemon franchise, sorry. So definitely a clash of the titans here. I Like Being Smart, veteran of the scene for sure. Been around for a while, and just as recently as last year, she came back and she did very well at a tournament that we had, the speedrunning tournament that we had online. Same one that Tayman did relatively well in as well. So both these people are going. I would say this is a pretty even match in my opinion.
I would like to give the advantage to Like Being Smart just because of more tournament experience. And they are playing at level 9. I'm not sure if these guys are that familiar with spa service and the extra color. The extra color really throws people off for a loop if you're not used to playing around with it.
Absolutely, and if you looked at that starting block that these players started with, it was like pretty much a grid network of that dark blue block. I looked at it and I almost had a seizure. I was like, I didn't know how I would approach this block. So maybe a slightly more awkward start for both these players. They're a little bit slow on getting the amount of chains necessary in order to top the opponent off. We see I Like Being Smart definitely dropping a little bit more, but not nearly enough to have it in kill zone levels.
Yeah, especially like if both players know that their opponent's kind of like struggling with the extra color, getting them topped off super important. Just because that extra little bit of hesitation, that extra little bit of delay, that's a match right there.
Yeah, absolutely. It could happen instantaneously.
Yeah, both players are struggling a little bit to kind of top their opponent off. They aren't getting really big chains. Not lots of combos. So
yeah, I'm thinking back to what you said earlier about style of play. In this scenario, it looks like I Like Being Smart definitely playing a little bit more defensively, and Tayman is almost mirroring that. He's making sure that he doesn't have too many blocks. He's throwing maybe a 2 or 3 chain in there at a time, but not really anything that massive. Nothing that would scream like I'm trying to kill you right now. I feel like they're both trying to just stay alive as opposed to kill.
Both a little bit scared, both a little bit trying to just, I'm trying to stay alive and waiting for the other person to make a mistake. So
absolutely, and this is loser semifinals, so whoever loses this one is gonna send packing it. Ooh, unfortunate issue there with 10 speed. Sometimes you just don't wait.
9 speed.
I've lost video feed. Can you see it?
Oh, I'm fine here.
Hello?
I'm fine. Can you? All right, we lost one, but we're gonna keep going.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my internet got spotty for a second, but I'm back.
All right, you didn't miss too much, except for that.
Just as I come back, I instantly curse everyone immediately.
Yeah. I mean, that was also kind of like a little misstep. And then also Tayman got to like really get to his metal blocks. So that little bit of the metal blocks are actually very annoying to play against because of how they clear differently. They stop the clearing line from moving upwards through the trash blocks. And that little extra layer kind of really impeded I Like Being Smart there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's rare to see a match go this long in the first place. 2 minutes at 9 speed is kind of a tremendous feat for both players to be at. So I feel like maybe adding just that little extra bit of chaos is definitely enough to throw someone off their game.
And I'm sure both these players are really feeling the scroll catching up to them. At 9 and 10, if you're not doing something, that upwards, just natural scroll of the screen is very noticeable.
No, I definitely agree. You have more blocks than you're comfortable with dealing with coming at you from both the top and the bottom. At the same time, you also have less time to deal with them, and they're a more pressing issue than regular. And I like being smart. Did a very good job getting that clear off, but it cost her too much time, and she doesn't manage to hold out for the next clear there.
Mm-hmm. We're coming down, you know, coming close to the end of the first set. You know, 2-1 on for Tayman.
Yeah, it's been tight, and I'm actually surprised, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like he almost switched his pace in order to match his opponent in this situation. He's playing the game of his opponent here. At least that's the way it seems like to me. Maybe he's a little bit worn out from the previous match, I don't know, but either way, definitely a much more defensive set from both players here than what we've seen up until now.
Yeah.
Except for that moment.
I think trying to get a little too greedy on Tayman, you know, trying to get both clears. Both the big trash box clear and the little clear, so
yeah, and you could tell that he was kicking himself by his body language as soon as it happened. Like my eyes naturally jumped to it. Like it looked like he legitimately kicked himself in the foot or something like that. And we saw Nicole. It looked like she offered him like words of encouragement, I think, or maybe a comment on the situation. But right now, Tayman is kind of taking a strong start here. I like being smart just a little bit later and not managing to top him off either.
Yeah, you know, I'm surprised that, maybe not too surprised that, you know, neither of these players like going for a super offensive type of play for a little bit to see how that works. Maybe they're still having some trouble adjusting, trying to get hyper offensive with the extra color.
And I think that another element of it is that the more blocks you expend in order to try to continue your chain, the less blocks you have to clear whatever falls on you. And as we've learned through our multiple matches, you could die within 11 seconds if you don't have the right clear ready for when the block falls on you. So maybe they're conserving their amount of movable blocks in order to make sure that they have the right clear ready for the next chain that falls on them.
So we have I Like Being Smart taking the first set. You know, pretty close, but you know, getting that first set over with and under your belt in a best of 3 is a very nice spot to be in.
Ooh. And I Like Being Smart really just bursting out the gate here with this fat 8 chain. I mean, she didn't throw any combos in there, so it's going to be a little bit easier to clear, but it's still a decent amount of weight to throw on another person within 10 seconds of the starting match.
She's got a pretty good chain coming right after, too. I think it was a 5 chain. Just like keeping on the pressure, but yeah, as with giant chains, if you just kind of like send giant chains, your opponent has a lot of room to work with.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like ammunition. Like you're really just loading the gun that they're gonna use to shoot you in some cases. Maybe not as much of an application at higher speeds like 9 and 10, where it's harder to make the most of the garbage block that you have, but it's also easier to clear a bigger block because you have more stop time in order to do so. So I Like Being Smart, even though she's on the aggressive right now, that might not go the entire distance, but as I was even thinking about cursing somebody, it happened.
Yeah, it worked out for I Like Being Smart. You know, just keeping your opponent topped off. I'm feeling that both players are still struggling a little bit with both the speed and extra color, so just however you're topping your opponent off, I think that's just good enough.
But I would absolutely say that was the best play, the best game that I've seen from I Like Being Smart so far. She's definitely warming up. She made a little bit of a mistake there with the purples. She could have gotten it, continue it to a 5, so her starting blocks can be split up into 2. And it looks like Tayman did a little bit more damage with his starting block there.
Yeah, but it's still not topping off the opponent, which, you know, that is by far the most important thing that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, you have to consider, look at how few blocks I Like Being Smart had when that chain fell on her. It's because she had to split up her chain into 2. So as a result, she just had, it's harder to top her off, but it's also harder for her to clear. As we saw right there, she had no active clears remaining. Sometimes if you try to go too aggressive, as we mentioned earlier, you just end up with not enough blocks to make it clear for the next.
Block management. You can go on and on about it again, but you know, at higher speeds, or even at lower speeds, blocking is super important.
Yeah, I feel like Pokemon Puzzle League can teach you so much about just real life. Like this is like financial planning right here. You know what I mean? Like you have to have enough blocks in the bank before you make an investment into your aggressive investing combo policy or something like that. I don't know.
Your combo policy.
Yeah. Quickly though, we saw Tayman take that one very fast. I Like Being Smart had a tower on the right hand side. She just couldn't resolve the issue fast enough, and the 9 speed definitely punished her for that.
Yeah. So we have Tayman on set point, ready to even it up.
Yeah, it's a tight battle. I mean, these two players have been going back and forth, and I feel like they're both warming up a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, like a game or two ago was definitely the best display I've seen from I Like Being Smart so far, and she's been playing very well since then. You know, a couple of unfortunate situations here or there, like we're seeing right now on her screen. She has a relatively complicated clear, slowed down her attacking ability. But Tayman, he just now raises his stack, just now taking advantage of that.
Got a lot of room to raise his stack, and that's a very comfortable place to be in. And now we are even at 1 set apiece. And we are down to the final set.
Oh, this one's gonna be best of 3. I'm sorry. I definitely should have followed that a little bit better earlier. But if this is best of 3, this is the one that's for all the marbles, because this is the losers semifinals. So whoever loses this one is gonna pack up and go home.
Yeah, and then the winner is top
advancing back.
3?
Yeah,
top 3. Yeah, because that would be losers final. So
yeah.
A shot at both EV4 and possibly a shot.
I Like Being Smart. She had a very good horizontal movement there on her side of the screen, but then she ended up with almost not enough to clear. And if Tayman had dropped just a little bit more, it would have been enough to top her off. I think we're seeing her starting to panic a little bit and overinvest. But as I say that, she actually makes it worthwhile because she finishes off Tayman with the amount of damage that she did with that starting block.
Yeah, you are definitely on the rampage today, my friend.
I can't stop myself, dude. It just keeps coming out. I just keep cursing everybody from start to finish.
Yeah.
All right, so the commentator Lightning is going to say something very smart right now. I'm just kidding. All right, so
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna take you down.
So looking at this starting block, it was a little bit of an awkward one to start. I don't like the ones that have like awkward pillars here and there. I like ones that are more even, like squared off at the top. And we see both players not really dropping too much on each other. I think that they both struggled with it a little bit more as well as opposed to the previous start, for example.
Yeah, definitely on, I guess, slower speeds, I like to even out my pillars before I raise my stack, or as I'm raising my stack. But at this higher speed, you really, not starting as soon as you can gives your opponent those few seconds to really put on the attack before you do. So
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you kind of have to play the cards you're dealt with in either sense of the word. But at least one thing I really like about Puzzle League is the fact that both players get the same stack from the start. So like, you can't complain about my stack if it was better than your stack or whatever. So when it's difficult, you can tell that in that situation it was difficult for both players. But it looks like I Like Being Smart, she had like a little bit of a technical flub there. She slowed down. She had like a brain fart. And I looked at the body language for a second. I think she was talking. It looked like she was saying like, "Damn, I really goofed up a little bit there." It was definitely a brain fart. Sometimes you just get like this kind of like block fatigue, I call it, where like you just look at blocks and you don't see the answer. It's like you haven't awoken your Sharingan or something like that.
I mean, it definitely happens, and especially like in a tournament setting where you're just looking at colorful blocks for like the last 4 hours. Yeah, these guys have been playing for a while. This is it's not just I'm playing these few matches at the top. It's they've gone through the whole gamut, and then now they're coming to the end. So
Nicole she got dealt a weird hand there where she made a 3 that just kind of put her in an awkward position where she was trying to manage. She had to manage things on 4 levels in order to make a vertical 3 that was unsupported on either side of the column. So she had to make some difficult decisions, but the level that they're playing at didn't afford her the time.
There you don't have time to if you don't know, you're gonna really bite the bullet for it. So
yeah. That's one of the things that I feel like is underrated about this game, or at least something that my friends who have shown this game might not realize, you know, people who don't play as much, is that it's not that you solve something while you're doing it. You kind of have to already know the solution when you move the blocks. It's not like I'm dancing around looking for the answer. I already know the answer. I just have to be fast enough to do it. And so when you are in the situation where you have to look for the answer, you can notice that pause in someone's play. They just slow down so tremendously immediately because they're like, wait, what's the answer? And that's when you already lose in this speed.
Yeah, especially action puzzles. You know, you have to be constantly thinking of your next move on the fly. It's, you know, if you're planning, your opponent's already like, you know, halfway through the chain.
Here we go with the last Pokeball, though.
Yeah, we are down to the wire.
Yeah, this is for all the marbles right here.
Yeah, final for both the set and the match. For spot in top 3.
I liked the way that Nicole opened the set with a 5 combo. It looked like it could have gone somewhere, but it looks like Tayman got the bigger chain off the starting block, so he has a little bit of an advantage going into this. Yeah, I mean, ilikebeingsmart still caught up in terms of the amount of volume dropped, but she's been playing defensively first, I think, and that's a little bit of an advantage to Tayman right now.
But, you know, the stack height, and Tayman just launching a whole bunch of combos, not too big of a chain. It really doesn't make that attack too powerful.
Yeah, both players are in decent position right here, but I hear Tayman doing some work on the other side. Still not enough to top Nicole off, but definitely putting in some work. ilikebeingsmart is now on the defensive, and she's actually very low on stack. If Tayman drops something right now, and wow, what a race from Tayman. I'm sorry, I had to look over for a second.
That
wow,
was a mistake.
I mean, ilikebeingsmart was in such a bad position right there, considering how few blocks she had, considering the fact that Tayman was doing the majority of the damage there, but I think that Tayman got a little greedy, and ilikebeingsmart takes it over him as a result.
He really wanted that green block. So.
Yeah.